Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday to you, and thank you, and happy New Year. This is our first post in the new year. So thank you all so much for being here. Again, this has been a conversation that we're having about the role of social work and social work power in the context of the transformation of mental health. And we've really, over the last several weeks or even months, we've really been taking a look at who we are as social workers, what might be some barriers to us really being able to take on the roles of transformation or transforming the mental health system, what our strengths are, what are the areas of opportunity for us to be looking at. And in this particular series, we are looking at parts of some of the articles that we've written to really dive into some of those conversations. In the other series, it's more of an open dialogue based on some of the things that we're currently doing in the background at Sweet as it relates to the transformation of mental health. So we have these videos, we have articles, we have a work group now, and we have a think tank that is all about and all creating movement toward a realized or realizing what the possibilities are around the transformation of mental health. So today we're going to look again at the article that we had started viewing the last time that we met on a Monday, which is Unveiling the Strengths of Social Workers. And we had the opportunity to talk first about what it was to have empathy, and one of the things that really comes up for us, and how that also can be confused when you are not a social worker, and how often it can be that many people call themselves social workers because they think that they're operating from a place of empathy, but have not been trained as a social worker to know the difference between empathy and giving advice and feeling bad for example. So today we're actually going to talk about what for me is kind of the core of social work. And it's this idea of being an advocate for justice. And so I'm going to read this and just speak to what comes up for me in this. Advocates for justice. Social workers are relentless. Here's that section right here. Social workers are relentless advocates for justice and equality. They stand up against discrimination, systemic oppression, and human rights violations. With unwavering commitment, they champion the rights of marginalized populations, raising their voices for those who may not have a platform to be heard. And so, I love who I am as an advocate, and it brings up, and it's a role that I have both intentionally and non-intentionally been in for, I think, a good portion of my life. And I think some of it started with modeling that I got from my mother, who was a speech pathologist with kids in early intervention, and the advocacy she did to ensure that they had a way of, voicing, literally sometimes, of voicing what it is that they wanted to make sure was heard, including things like no, and I don't want to, and leave me alone, which she was always a proponent for people having a right to say, particularly kids, and being able to create a platform for young people to have ways to create boundaries in their lives. And so I think that this was some of the modeling that I had growing up. And so it just became sort of this natural avenue for me as well. And when I look at my own history, it's chock full of, again, both formal and informal places of advocacy, jobs, careers that I have had for more than 20 years, where I was an advocate, volunteer work where I was an advocate, peer education groups when I was in college, as an advocate, and other groups that I was a part of when I was in high school, and and things, again, that I didn't even realize I was doing in the space of advocacy, but as it turned out, that's what it actually was. And social work became my vehicle to be able to do that more formally. So I think, it's there's a number of different things that come up for me about it, and I think it's related to some of the things that we have spent some time talking about before it is this unwavering commitment, right? And I think what happens a lot of times is that unwavering commitment, almost always, I think anyway, and I'm happy to be wrong about this. I think that the unwavering commitment is typically out there, right? And it's not here in terms of, do I have unwavering commitment to advocate for myself? When I think that there is something that I am being, that there is some sort of discrimination that I'm experiencing, or some sort of lack of justice that I feel that is occurring for me. And often, that there's a emphatic no to that, where if it's happening to me, it's likely because of something I've done wrong. And so this is, this is the outcome of that. And so it's, and so the unwavering so there's a lot of self-criticism. So the unwavering commitment is projected outward in terms of what I can do for other people. And I think in the domain of who we are as powerful leaders and who we are in the world of social work, this unwavering commitment around advocacy also has to be about us and what it is that we can be doing to ensure that we are constantly advocating for what our needs are as well, so that we are also, one, modeling for other people, and two, we are resourceful so that we can then provide resources to other people as well. If I am completely depleted, there's a limit to how much I'm then able to really truly offer authentically and in a way that is that allows me to be really present for other people and hear what it is that they are communicating their needs to be. The other piece of this, I think, that comes up also in this conversation we've been having about transformation of mental health, and some of, I think, the barriers that I've been observing as we have been going through this process, is that the advocacy, it's that there is this unwavering commitment, and often the unwavering commitment is kind of narrowly focused on a singular individual or a singular population. And so when we think about the transformation of mental health, we're really opening up that lens a little bit more from singular to global. And I think that becomes some of the challenge that gets experienced is, I'm doing enough for my individual person or for my individual group of people that I'm working with, and that's enough. And so it keeps us kind of, I think, locked into the processes that we're already in, and makes it difficult for us to be able to take the step back and to look at the bigger picture and really be able to see, how can I then move this advocacy that I'm doing with this individual or this group of individuals, and expand it, so that when we think about marginalized populations and we think about systemic oppression, we're thinking about it in terms of a wider scope, rather than thinking about my individual that I'm working with to ensure that my individual is getting their needs met. Because if we're able to take a step back and really focus on and advocate about those systemic, the systemic oppression and discrimination, and recreate a new system, then it will address the needs of other of multiple populations, populations. And so it's, and so what does it take then for us? So number one, what does it take for us to ensure that we are keeping ourselves on the table in terms of having the unwavering commitment? And then on the other, what does it take for us to open up the lens a little bit so that we're moving beyond one individual or one population to really focusing on what making changes on a systemic level and really like transforming the system, what that would look like if we did take a step back and thought bigger than the individual and the group, but really about like that includes everybody. And if we all took that step back and we remembered that there's everybody here, then perhaps it wouldn't just be about, I can only do what I can do for this individual or this group of individuals, and instead be, okay, how can I apply what I'm doing with this group of individuals or this individual on a bigger scale, since I'm using those skills anyway. So that's those are some of my thoughts for today. Those are some of the things that come up for me. So what comes up for you? Where do you see yourself on the continuum of advocacy, both for yourself and for the system at large? I'd love to hear from you. And so please put your comments below, and I look forward to seeing you at our next conversation.